It's just gone 2 p.m. this Monday afternoon here in Moscow. Welcome to RT International. I'm Ewan O'Neill. A cameraman for a Russian TV channel has been killed in eastern Ukraine. He and another TV crew came under fire in the Donetsk region. Now, they were in a bus close to a Ukrainian army base, which was also carrying mothers of soldiers on their way to demand their sons return home. Gunfire came from inside the base.
Не стреляйте в женщин! Мы матери! Мы приехали искать своих детей! Скажите, где они?
The driver turned the bus around to get to safety as the shooting continued.
Федя где? Федя!
You can see the bullets hit the bus. The cameraman Anatoly Klyan was fatally wounded, despite the efforts of other passengers to help him. A warning: you may find the following footage upsetting.
Сейчас будет хорошо. Сейчас будет хорошо. Глядя на меня, смотри. Глаза не опускай. Глаза не опускай.
Anatoly died within an hour of this being filmed. The incident came just a day before a ceasefire between the Ukrainian army and self-defense fighters expires. Here's how two other reporters on the bus describe what occurred.
When we got out of shooting range, the driver stopped the bus to wait for other journalists who were following in cars. When we all got out of the bus, and everyone was either calling home or calling their editors. And in about a minute we saw a signal flare in the sky, and then the shooting started. Everyone ran towards the bus. They were shooting at the vehicle. I was on the driver's side and jumped in. A bullet whizzed past me, and then I saw that it had hit the driver. I saw blood on his head. He started driving anyway, but then felt dizzy and the bus veered into a ditch and stopped. I ran out and saw someone was wounded and realized it was Anatoly. We were trying to find a car to get him to hospital, and when we started taking him out of the bus, he turned around and his last words were, "The camera, the camera." Then in the car he was conscious for a while. But he lost consciousness when we got near the accident and emergency station. They tried to revive him for about half an hour, but then they came out and said there was nothing more they could have done.
Russia is demanding an investigation into the death of the cameraman and for those responsible to be punished. It's not the first time journalists have been caught in Ukraine's crossfire. Just 2 weeks ago, army artillery fire killed a Russian correspondent and his sound engineer while they were filming refugees outside the city of Lugansk. Last month, an Italian photographer and his translator died in a mortar shelling, and a reporter for RT's video agency Ruptly was severely wounded by soldiers in the city of Mariupol in May. It took several days to negotiate his return to Moscow. Journalists are often detained without charge by government forces, and correspondents for various Russian news channels have been apprehended, interrogated and even beaten. The incident came at a time of declared truce in the east of the country. President Putin, along with his German and French counterparts, have called on Ukrainian leader Petro Poroshenko to extend the ceasefire that expires at 7 p.m. GMT on Monday. They held a phone conversation overnight. RT's Maria Finoshna reports on how the ceasefire affected life in the embattled area.
Those we have been able to speak to here in the city of Lugansk and its region have been telling us that it did bring relative calmness and nights became more silent, so that finally people now could sleep. But of course we continue hearing about sporadic fire often resulting in fatalities, including among civilian population. We heard that the city of Lugansk, the epicenter of what Kiev calls its anti-terror operation, repeatedly came under fire, with residential area attacked and a woman killed. A church was also hit at the time when during mass was happening there. There were also a series of explosions at an arms depot in Donetsk. No soldiers were there at the time. We've been hearing from Ukrainian military repeatedly that their checkpoints were attacked by self-defense forces. Well, we can say that unfortunately whatever peace there is now in this part of the country remains very, very fragile, and of course people are very tired. They are exhausted of this situation of months of clashes and months of tensions. Many fled already the country, but many stay here, and we've been hearing from many of them that their plan is that in case of emergency, in case of need, they will use bomb shelters. We visited some of them, and here's my report about that.
This is our bomb shelter. Watch out.
It was built decades ago when Ukraine was part of the USSR at the height of the Cold War. And it seems those dark times are returning to this part of the world. The enemy may be different, but these abandoned sites are now coming back to life.
As they say, if you want peace, prepare for war.
Vadim, a Lugansk resident, volunteered to clean up Soviet-era bunkers. They could provide a crucial defense against army air raids and artillery fire, he says. We speak to Vadim during what is supposed to be a ceasefire.
They keep bombing us, which is why we're working here. The infrastructure is destroyed, so we're taking the most important first steps to fix it and allow people to shelter here.
Similar work is currently underway at many similar sites all over the city. About 100 bomb shelters are already open.
Вот у нас как бы сделали лежанки, вода у нас питьевая. Здесь полтонны, и в другом зале еще как бы. Она чистая питьевая вода.
Это у вас теплая одежда?
Ну, это теплая одежда, да, если кому холодно, как бы. Тоже люди приносили.
Это военный, да?
Да, военный нам как бы трофей остался на память. Мы сделали биотуалет, здесь рукомойник, у нас жидкое мыло, все есть, ну, как бы с канализацией проблемы.
There is also a kitchenette with some basic food and first aid kits.
Ну, неделю даже можем тут жить свободно.
Suddenly we hear what sounds like distant shooting.
Что вот за звуки мы слышим?
Ну, это в Металлисте, у нас уже второй день они бомбят. Как бы 10 километров отсюда и слышно хорошо, очень даже.
А в чем, почему бомбят Металлист?
Ну, они же хотят зайти в город.
When we film, Vitaly's daughter Nastya stops by. She also heard what we did.
The sky was lit up with explosions when we were walking home through a field. Then there were sirens and everyone started running away. It was terrifying. The same thing happened later that night.
The ceasefire expires in just a few hours' time, and no one can say for sure whether these long-abandoned bomb shelters will be needed again. Rivnoshnati in Lugansk, eastern Ukraine.
You can see more dramatic images from the Ukrainian conflict on our website, rt.com.